I'm extremely surprised that Siaya would not have a properly functioning revenue collection system.
We have an automated system now, although it is not yet universal, but it covers the main revenue streams, but it's work in progress. And I think the Auditor General, I don't know the last time the Auditor General checked on this. We have even a dashboard where we are able to follow revenue collections by the hour, by the minute. It is there.
Governor, if that was the case, could you tell us how much of your own source revenue is collected through the system and how much is collected manually?
Chair, to answer on behalf of the Governor, we have 11 structured revenue streams that is collected through the system. And then we have an additional unstructured 14, which is not collected through the system.
In terms of values?
Value for the 11 contributes like 95% of the revenue. The other unstructured contributes like 5%.
Auditor General, your concern was that it was not fully implemented, but the county is saying that 90 what percent? 99%?
95% of structured revenue utilizes the system.
So they are talking of 95% already in the system, or is that the position?
Yes, you know, 95% is not 100%. Yes. So what I'm saying is not fully automated. But going forward here, we already have some team members who are in the field, and we are going to call our ICT personnel, experts, to come and see how the project is going.
Senator Cherargei?
Governor, according to CRA, I think the fiscal analyst Salat is here. What is the revenue potential of Siaya as of today? The revenue potential. Yeah, revenue potential of Siaya as of today, as opposed to what you actually collected, because it will point out into clarity of through the chair the revenue collection systems. Because the reason we push for automation of revenue system and ICT committee is to ensure that the leakages are sealed. So what is the revenue potential vis-a-vis what you are collecting?
Governor?
At the moment, we don't have a valuation role, but I think in 2 months we'll accomplish in having in place a valuation role. If you have that valuation role in place, I think we can collect anything beyond 1.5 billion shillings. But even without that valuation role, ever since we automated, I think our revenue collection has gone up by about 35–40%. We started my first year. The collection was about 400 million. Now we are at the close of the month. This month, and the close of the financial year, we think we'll be at about $1 billion in 2 years.
So, Chair, I told the CRA fiscal analyst, what is the revenue potential of CRA according to CRA?
Chair, as per CRA estimate, the revenue potential for Siaya County government is 1.1 billion. In comparison to neighboring county like Homa Bay, then Homa Bay has less revenue potential than Siaya, but they collect more revenue than Siaya. Yes.
We had that debate here.
And Governor, I'm just looking at it,
Yeah.
Yes.
because your reported growth in revenue is coming from hospital fees.
Correct, that is where
From 273 million to 382 million. And we have had this debate about doing business with the sick. And with FIF,
yes,
then these numbers are not going to appear on this schedule.
correct.
Will they?
Yeah, but even revenue collection in hospitals without automation, quite a lot of that money was not being collected. In fact, we started by going into the hospitals. In fact, the two first institutions we went to was the County Referral Hospital and Yala Hospital. And I think Siaya is not the only county where quite a bit of revenue comes from hospitals. But there is growth across the board, except in marketry, which is very difficult to...
Governor, in the past you had a dim view around reporting hospital fees and using it as a basis for priding yourself in growth of revenue. And I shared your view then. Has your position changed?
It does not change. All I'm saying is that revenue has grown because of automation. We are talking about automation. And
not because more people are getting sick?
No, not at all, not at all. In fact, if you look at the numbers of people coming to hospitals, there's no phenomenal growth that will reflect this growth of nearly 100% of revenue.
Because in an optimal situation, if you're making the right investments in the health sector, and if this thing called SHA is working, ideally we should be seeing a drop in the cost of hospitalization, isn't it? Instead of a growth. So when you see 100 million growth, it's either people in Siaya are getting sicker, or it is an indication that there used to be theft in the past. There are better controls. So which of the two is it? Is it better controls or people are getting sicker?
I think it's obviously better controls. Better controls. I visited quite a number of these hospitals, and I don't think, and I've gone there in person, I don't think the growth in terms of the sick who come to these medical institutions is any higher, which speaks to the efficiency as far as revenue collection is concerned when you have an automated system.
It could also be growth in the levies charged in the hospital. So I think, Auditor, when you're looking at the revenues, it's also good to look at the Finance Acts to see if there is any growth in the levies charged. There are counties that are charging, like for X-ray, more than what is being charged in the private hospitals. So I think all that analysis should be seen within the realm of levies charged, better controls, and maybe increase, as she is saying, of sick people.
Governor, if this health thing was working, now you are the practitioner on the ground, if this SHA thing was working, what would be the hospital fee chargeable on an ordinary member of the public? Is this 382 million money charged on members of the public, or these are rebates from the insurance?
Chair, in the 382, there's some component of the NHIF capitation, right, which are rebates. And then there is also the charges that we charge there. That, if you look at that 23-24, because SHA came in October last year, is when it effectively got in. Now, if you do the comparison of 24 and then you go to 25, you will see the charges for the hospital as substantially reduced, almost around 89 million. But for the SHA, it has gone up. Now, for the SHA, there are two components: what has been paid, and also what we are claiming that has not been paid. But a huge component of that you'll find is also NHIF capitation, and also the facilities charges.
But they are still user fees.
They are still user fees.
Senator Morgan.
No, you have not answered the question.
Yeah.
Are the people of Siaya benefiting from the SHA card? Like, do they walk to a hospital as a one-stop shop, do consultation, you prescribe medicine, and they get medicine over the counter from the hospital? Can you tell us that the people of Siaya are getting value for money?
Chair, from Siaya, yes, in terms of one-stop shop, it is there. I'll give you, for example, I'll give the incidences for this financial year. Total, what you have claimed from SHA is 289 as at the end of May, 289, out of which around 110 million is what has not been paid. But in terms of improvement, what you can see, SHA, when it started, it had a teething problem, but over time, it has started improving, and where people in SHA are able to get their services in proper.
Through the chair, I thought your statistics should tell us that we attended 800 patients, and all these patients they consulted the physicians or the doctor, we prescribed medicine, and they got medicine from our government pharmacy. I mean, if you gave us those statistics, that's when we'll be able to conclude and say, yes, it's working.
Because the numbers here suggest that the breakdown you're talking about, out of your 382 million, 199 million was user fees. Almost 200 million paid as user fee. And yet we are being told of this universal health thing where you walk into a hospital and get treated and go home without paying 200 million.
Yes. I think this is still really work in progress. My experience is that even from the point of view of registration, a lot of people are unable to get registration. When the word out there is that you go in a medical institution and you be able to register in the system. And that goes also with the service. I think it's still work in progress. I think the jury is still out there. But I will not give it, a pass mark yet until, we have had a certain period of implementation. It's still got quite a bit of teething problems.
Senator Cherargei?
Chair, Governor, sorry, I think you have had the revenue potential should be 1.1 and CRA, and they have markers that they do that. While I appreciate that you are still working on valuation report, which means you are still failing by the mark. But according to financial statements, 2022-2023, the total revenue from on-source revenue are over 5 or 1 million. Then you added almost 100 million, that's 610, 364. So I'm looking at the collection. I've heard you saying you have challenge with market fees. But the difference is that in the 2022-2023, you collected more at 32 million.7. But in 2023-2024, it fell by a difference of 2 million. On the property rent, Governor, which I think you are doing valuation report on the same, is that in 2022-2023, you are collecting only 279,000, but is significantly pushed to 13.5 million Kenya shillings. So, Governor, this discrepancy, I'm using just property rent through you, Chair, is so huge. That is why you are missing the target by almost 12 million Kenya shillings. So what is happening with this property rent? That in the previous year, that is financial year 2020-2023, you are collecting 279, but it leaped to 13.5 million. So and even on fines, penalties, and forfeiture fees, in this year under consideration, you collected nil. But in the previous year, you are collecting 105,250 shillings, Chair. So my concern, Chair, on this issue of on-source revenue is there is some disparity. And Governor is saying there are better controls. Who was the governor before you? Maybe it will point out why. Do you attribute it to the former administration? Or do you attribute it to better controls? Or do you attribute it to automation, yet lack of valuation report? Where is the challenge in achieving the target of 1.1, which CRA put it? I think the former governor was called Colonel Rasanga, who used to pay air tickets for some individuals. I think I remember that guy, but anyway, that's a story for another day. You need to look for me. I'll tell you who he was paying air tickets for. So my point is, where is the challenge?
Governor, and be precise because we have another meeting in the afternoon. We need to adjourn
I
this
think
meeting.
that's a wide and varied question. We have had challenges because a lot of our properties that are county properties, they are not registered. They do not have title deeds. They are on county land or government land, but they're not registered. So we enter into frequent disputes with tenants. The other thing that we resolved is that we had some dispute with the National House Corporation. They own some houses. We own some houses which were essentially at the beginning built by them. So in a period where we said we need to agree on what they owe us and what we owe them. And recently we have come up with a figure. I think National Housing Corporation owes us more money than we owe them. Once that debt is settled, the figures that you're talking about would look a little bit better. But we went slow on them because we welcome a major construction they're doing in Siaya, which they have commissioned, worth over 200 million shillings. But in Siaya, the challenge has been a lot of houses don't have titles, and tenants, when they come, and if they're the county government officials, they tend not to pay. And since they are staffs, sometimes we find it very difficult to evict them.
But
although we should deduct some of those rents from their salaries, but when they have a lot of deduction, sometimes
But Chair, the governor has enforcement as carries. Why don't you enforce? Like KRA, if you don't pay, they come for your neck.
That we don't want to do.
Or it's also political.
We want it to be a matter of duty,
Yes.
for people to pay tax. Using non-revenue enforcement officers
Yes.
can also have a lot of challenges. I think the Kibaki magic was a little bit better. Appeal to the taxpayers or those who should pay to pay instead of taking.
So what, Chair, through the Chair, Governor, we want to assist. So if I stay in a house in Siaya and I am an employee of Siaya County government, your officers will just come and babysit me and tell me, please pay. If you don't pay, how will we achieve this target of collecting rent? Why don't you even, I know you have the county attorney, which you assisted us in passing the county attorney act. Why don't you even issue eviction orders for some individuals who don't want to pay? Because if they don't pay, you don't have money to maintain those houses. You don't have all sorts of revenue to maintain public utilities and amenities within Siaya town or within the municipalities. What is the long-term strategy? Because my worry is in the previous year, 2022-2023, you are collecting 279,000 according to your receiver of revenue. It jumped to over 13-point-something million Kenya shillings. How will you? And then finally, are you working with other government agencies like Ministry of Lands to ensure you get titling of most of this property so that it is easy for you to do collection of your resources through the Chair? If you can confirm to us, we will make a progress, and if there is any policy intervention that we might resolve, we go to the House, it will be easy. So where is the gray area that does not allow you to achieve? Sometimes do you give even waivers in terms of land rates within the properties in Siaya, or what do you do? Because that target of collection of revenue is very critical for the growth of Siaya County. Thank you, Chair.
Governor?
The simple question, there's some growth. If you look just from your statement, from a figure of 279,000 the previous financial year to 13 million shillings this year, I think that's phenomenal growth. But I think this is an area where there's been lack of emphasis, if I may put it that way, because of the previous practices. You know, a lot of the houses that became county property were handed over by the national government. But by the time we were taking over those properties, they are all already tenants. In fact, most of the rents that are owed are historical, from 10, 15 years ago. So it makes rent collection difficult. We are in constant discussions with the National Land Commission. I think they're coming to Siaya in about 2-3 weeks to determine this question of title deeds, not only to houses where residential houses, but you find such essential properties owned by the county, including the county hospital, the stadium, the county headquarters, the county assembly. All of them lack titles. And that's why we engaged the National Land Commission to try and find a pathway towards a faster way of titling properties belonging to the county.
Governor, if I was to just interrupt, the day after tomorrow, it will be 25th of June, and it will be 1 year since Kenyans came out to protest against a finance bill. And there is a generation that does not know that there used to be a poll tax in this country. A poll tax was a tax on every adult, isn't it? And it was assumed that if you're an adult, you must be able to go out and work, and you need to pay a tax. My generation didn't see it. I only hear about it from the songs of Nyatiti. I think the Gwanglelo of this world. They tell stories of that era. Personally, my view has never been to tax individuals irrespective of whether they are able or disabled, working or not. Tax should be on the basis of service. Tax should be on the basis of productivity. So we can push you to do a valuation roll. We can push you to come up with different rates for Siaya Town and Bondo Town, but you'll never be able to collect. In fact, you'll be voted out of office for imposing high taxes. In fact, it's part of the opposition. When you declare an area a town or a municipality, or it becomes a city, then the rates become different. The conversation we should be having is linking the gross county product, its growth, to the growth of on-source revenue. We might not be able to get to the bottom of that conversation right now, but please let it be on record, clerks, when you're writing our report, that we made the observation that property rent from a collection of 279,000 grew by 13 million. Now, the question would be, was someone stealing from the county? Because there is no way you can move from 279,000 to 13 million on the same economic fundamentals. On advertising, outdoor advertising,